because we are the Hove cast, right? I do want to tiptoe around this. Not tiptoe, but like, I do want to be objective in this, and I want you guys to share the reasoning for why you don't believe this case in general. And I don't want it to just be because I know Jay-Z. I want to talk about...
It's not about knowing.
I don't
Jay-Z.
even like... I don't
that's
like
not
know
even
him.
it. It's not it at all. It's just... This is just absolute... Okay, so a 13-year-old girl signed the NDA, went to an after party. She got raped. She escaped the house, made it across the street, down the block to a gas station, called her father. Her father picks her up from this gas station, this was in 2000, it's supposed to be, so 24 years ago this happened. And this is the first time where ever, like, the father didn't go in that house.
I don't really want to go that route because I do think there is a world where that's probably happened somewhere. Like, it's always tough to say with rape cases, time. I always think that's a cheap thing because there's been plenty of rape cases that are true that do come out 20 years later. It's a rough process for women when these types of things happen, especially when they are children and maybe we're out doing something they shouldn't have done. Like, I shouldn't be at this party, and I'm not going to tell anyone that I got raped and keep it to themselves until they're adults and their brain processes it. So that's not why I don't think this is true. I think it's the moves that have been made since October with this case aren't really movements of someone that is guilty. Is really where I'm on the side. I
just none of this shit sounds believable. None of it. It's just the most far-fetched
I don't
thing.
think,
like, what is this?
But you can understand, because kind of what Demaris is prying, like optically, you can understand why the internet and some people would feel emboldened enough to turn against Jay and say, we knew it, he's been this guy, you know, and if they're just kind of going with the story, you can see why, like, because when they say,
I'm going to get into my objective parts in a second.
When people online say he's been this guy, what does that mean?
Just optically, for a long-standing friendship with Diddy, they do the brunch thing. There's obviously, all you need is a bunch of photos with someone, and then you're accused of everything that person did.
That's true. Crazy.
He did 2 tours with R. Kelly. They have 2 albums together. Like, there's just like, it's just enough for people to be like, oh yes, this makes sense.
There's no way you're next to all these nasty ass people and not being nasty.
You're not
and I hear what you're saying with that. That's the way that people think. I also think that people are a little slow, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but
no, I mean it disrespectful.
No, but like, but it's just, no, it's because I think people
I think you're stupid.
I think people see celebrities together in pictures, and everybody's like, they're friends, and it's just like they do the same shit with us. And if we make it local in podcasting, they see us next to other podcasters and they assume that we're friends, and it's like, we are colleagues, we are coworkers, we know each other through certain circles. If we're not in a podcast studio or at a podcasting event, we don't see or speak to these people. And I think it's the same from what I've heard and from what we've all heard.
Just stupid
that's
to me.
not,
which is why I think you can say that it's stupid, because I saw last night 2 people put Puff's address and Jay and Beyonce's address, and they live in the same neighborhood. And there was a full-blown thread of debates of the tunnel that could go through that canyon from Puff's house to Jay and Beyonce's. And granted, I don't know Jay like that, like for real, but I do know that he doesn't really like Puff the way y'all think he likes Puff, to the point that Puff couldn't get a key to the house, let alone a tunnel into his house.
A key, lucky if you get an invite.
Yeah.
This shit is just, it's laughable, man. And you know, like he said, if it wasn't something as serious as kids being sexually assaulted, you would have to laugh at this shit.
Now,
like, what are we talking about, man?
The objective side, because I agree with Demaris, we've been admitted Ho-vengers, so let's be fair here. So a lot of people making some fair points of him saying, all right, we'll take it to criminal court. We don't know what the exact charges are because it was a civil lawsuit, but there is statute of limitations on rape. So he could be having this bravado because he knows it can't go to criminal court and it'll make him look better. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if that's the exact case, but I thought that was one of the only fair things to come out of a criticism of his approach. And then they did the whole timeline between him and Beyonce, which, I mean, she was 19, and I've been on record saying it's super weird when 30-year-olds talk to teenagers. And I'll stick by that, but I don't think that makes you a pedophile. My only other criticism is it's light. I just knew it was going to get misinterpreted, and it's a trending topic now. Jay-Z's so honorable. Like a bunch of fucking idiots, but it's a thing. I know at the bottom he was talking about him and his crew in the projects, but let's not pretend like children are not always protected in the projects and children are not always harmed in the projects. I know
yeah.
I know he's talking about him and his crew.
His
but
story,
to say I
his
come
life.
from the projects and we don't play these type of games, we have a strict code. That's not always the case in the projects.
Oh, but he's speaking from his vantage, his standpoint.
But people are taking it as
Yeah, but people gonna take if he said, you know, if he's whatever he said, people are gonna take it and dissect it and run with a different way with it. That's just, you know, the world we're in now with everybody having, you know, access to social media and creating accounts. Everybody feels like they can add in and jump in on a conversation and just, you know, express their feelings. And, you know, that's part of it. We understand that, which is why public perception, you know, people will hang you publicly, you know, so that the public looks at you like, oh, he's a piece of shit. When it's like, you know, you do realize this. I mean, to this day, people still bring up Michael Jackson when it comes to pedophilia. And it was like, yo, you know that there was nothing ever found that leaves even any amount of credence to those claims. Like, people don't know that, but they just know that he was in court because somebody said that he touched some kids.
And that became his entire...
And that became a part of his legacy.
Yeah.
Now, when you bring up Michael Jackson, you bring up that case and you bring up, oh, he likes little kids. And it's like, that's the thing that they stick to you that will follow you forever, even when you're found not guilty and there's no truth to any of these claims. And that's the fucked up part about it, is that no matter what is found here, and like I said, I'll stand on it and I'll stand on it forever, that I know this is complete bullshit when it comes to Jay, but I just know publicly what this will do to him for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Go ahead, Demaris.
And I just want to say that I think as somebody who, again, Maul is speaking from a different perspective from the rest of us, because I can't speak to Jay-Z's character because I do not know him.
I could speak to it.
Okay, that's what I know. That's why I said you're speaking from a different perspective than the rest of us. So as far as me not jumping gung-ho to believe this, actually has nothing to do with what I think Jay-Z's character is or what I think he is or isn't capable of doing. I don't know that man. He could be capable of anything. When I'm talking about common sense and the way that Jay has moved throughout his career, the way that him and Beyonce, just the privacy that they have, the idea and the notion of Jay-Z being with Puff and holding down, no matter how old she was, holding down a girl and raping her in a room with Puff and another person in the room, that doesn't even if he was nasty, that doesn't make sense with the way that Jay-Z has moved throughout his life.
Do that shit in private.
You're making a joke out of it.
But
what I'm saying is, if he was to be a nasty man, again, I don't know him. If he being objective, if he was to be a nasty man, everything Jay-Z has done in his careers has showed that he's not going to do that shit with no fucking audience. So that's what just doesn't make any sense to me. Not caping for who he is as a person. Like I said, I don't know him, but just like putting pieces together of the way that people have moved throughout their careers. Some shit just don't make sense.
And to my fellow conspiracy theorists, we should look at every case as its own, not as one big clump. I don't think Bill Cosby was trying to buy NBC, and that's why he clearly was guilty of all the shit he was accused of. I don't think it was because he was buying NBC and they planted all that shit on him. I believe that Bill Cosby was a nasty fuck. Even with the times that he was living in, still a nasty fuck to me. Now, I think Puff is a nasty fuck too. Do I think there was maybe an agenda because of his situation with Diageo? Sure, but two things can be true. I also think Puff is a nasty fuck. Was there incentive to try to get him the fuck out of here because he wasn't playing a game with somebody? Cool, but the evidence is still there, so lock him up. Now let's treat this situation differently because it's a different case. I think there's a lot going on with Hove. Gambling is at the highest it's ever been on Earth. It's clear that Roc Nation is bidding for the Caesars Palace situation in Times Square. I don't even need to really explain how big that is in the world. I could see this being part of it. He recently had a situation with, who was it? Bacardi, that didn't play out too well. And I'm not saying that is why people get accused. In this situation with those two things, I could see this ambulance chaser being funded for a smear campaign when some of the biggest companies in the world right now are being outbid by a black guy. I could see it.
I think it's all tied in. And it's, you know, it's the wild part is that I think most people understand that could be part of it. It's like, so we know what's going on. We know what happens when you reach certain heights and you reach certain levels and you start having certain conversations, you know, and rubbing shoulders with some guys that never thought that you would make it anywhere near their boardroom. and now they're sitting there and they have to outbid you. You know, people don't like that. So they, you know, they try to, you know, reach back in the past and find something, anything that will damage you, you know, the perception of who you are and the legacy that you've created. Just so it may kind of hinder, you know, whatever you're trying to do on the business front. It'll turn some people away. Some people might not want to be attached to you business-wise. They don't want to stand next to you anymore. It's a nasty game, man. It's a nasty game when you reach those heights. And, you know, I just think somebody like Jay is obviously, you know, if you listen to his music throughout the years, he knows what's coming. He's prepared for it. He understands the game that he's in now. He understands that he's not wanted in certain rooms and certain positions. You know, I just think it's fucked up and it's unfortunate that he has to deal with this. But again, man, I'm on the side of knowing who Jay is as a person, knowing his character, knowing where his moral compass is. And, you know, when you start talking about abusing, sexually assaulting kids, you know, that's just not in his character at all.
Yeah. And again, I think everything is case by case basis. I fully think there's a bunch of nasty fucking people in the music industry.
Oh, for sure.
That Jay has rubbed shoulders with, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Joint albums and everything. I totally get that outrage. And I think that's something that, you know, should have been addressed at some point. I think Ho probably thought it's just been so long that addressing the R. Kelly situation would have been weird. But I do fully understand people that are at least sane and not on the crazy conspiracy side of like, there's, you know, dead children in Beyonce and Jay-Z's basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would question that as a casual fan. Like, all right, everyone knew, and you did a tour with him, and then Aaliyah was around. Like, I get the logic of that. It's not my place to try to explain it. It would be theirs. But I see why people want an explanation for that.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
I get why someone would be like, okay, but this was not like some rape shit, but this was weird.
I mean, but you say
R. Kelly was rape.
Right. But you say, see, that even when you say, you know, on tour with R. Kelly, did music, it's a bunch of artists that have toured with R. Kelly. It's a bunch of musicians that toured with R. Kelly. It's a bunch of publicists. It's a bunch of fucking like, so none of those people are considered nasty fucks.
I agree with you.
It's just the artists that did the song with him.
And see, goes back to our conversation, I think it was like at the top of this year maybe, where we came in here and said like, it's tough to go through with this music industry shit because no matter what, you're gonna feel like a hypocrite. Even if I don't know what people do in their own bedrooms, you rub shoulders in this fucking demonic, and I'm not doing Illuminati shit, this demonic industry. And shit comes out and it's you're like, fuck, like, it doesn't make you a bad person. You did not know, you did not participate, but you're still part of it. And to have an explanation for everyone that works within show business, all of us are gonna have to go to the podium and be like, well, yeah, I worked with him. I didn't fucking know him.
Right.
But some people say with Jay, you know, Aaliyah was hanging out with them, dating Dame. Dame has been vocal that Aaliyah explained the situation. So that's also where people are like, all right, if you knew that, why would you work with him? But I don't know. There could be more to the story. I don't know.
Right. Either way, it's unfortunate, again, to see, you know, somebody like Jay have to go through this. And, you know, we're just going to have to sit back and watch this play out over the next few months.
And yet, listen, this is not Hove bias here. Let it go to court. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's true, but if it's true, fuck him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, but in his response, he's on that side. Yeah. Let it go to court. Again, this could have been stepped on, and we never would have. His name would have never been involved in any of this. They could have stepped on this months ago, settled out, and we would have never gotten any of this. But the fact that, you know, him and his team was like, no, we're not settling nothing. Let them. That speaks to when you know exactly who you are. Like, oh, this is what y'all think I've done in my life. Okay, all right. Well, let's go to court and let's let the evidence, like, put everything on the desk and show me where you think that I did that at.